Hey, welcome to the show. I am consumer advocate Patrick Mattingly, and you're watching Consumer's Corner. What's Consumer's Corner? Well, hey, listen. If you have a problem with a company or a business, or in a way that I guess you're not getting any resolutions, some things are going wrong, things are not going well. Maybe you hired a contractor and they're not responding to your phone calls, or they didn't finish the job, or maybe you feel like you've gotten ripped off, or hey, maybe you have hired a professional like a doctor or a lawyer or maybe a moving company or something that you're just having a problem with and you're not getting any resolution. Well, guess what? We're in your corner. That's why we're called Consumer's Corner. Bet you didn't know that. Just kidding. Yeah, that's what we do. We want to help you get some resolution, and we do it pretty good. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I actually started off with a niche product called allaboutdriveways.com. I'd been in the construction industry for, over 30 years now. I started a website called allaboutdriveways.com about 10 years ago, and my goal was to help people avoid getting ripped off, because I hate to say it like this, but there's a lot of dirtbags in that business. And some of them love to send me messages. It's so funny. I laugh. I just laugh. I sit and laugh at them. It's like I got a message the other day. This guy watched my video called How to Install an Asphalt Driveway. If you haven't seen it yet, maybe you don't want to, but if you thought about having an asphalt driveway installed, you can watch that video. It does very well on YouTube. We're number one for asphalt driveways. It's funny because he commented, typical horrible work, typical scabs, or something like that. It was just funny. It's, I don't, and by the way, I was going to mention, always, these guys that always have something real positive to say, negative, the neggies, it's always a YouTube channel that they just signed up for, and they just had to comment because they just hate the fact that I put a stifle on their business, and I love it. I love doing it. Why? Because there are so many people out there that get burned by unethical companies and contractors. And so, anyway, that's the goal. 10 years ago, I started that website. About 3.5 years ago, I decided, you know what? I want to help more people. So I started trustpatrick.com. We just launched. We still have a few things that we've got to finish, so we're still in beta phase. But our goal is to connect you with good companies at trustpatrick.com. Not just any company, but, companies that I have vetted extensively. I've vetted them probably better than you might be able to on your own without spending any money. As a matter of fact, we spend about $150 maybe, roughly average, each company, sometimes over $200, to actually thoroughly vet them. Because we want to make sure we send you somebody that is a stellar company. So trustpatrick.com, you go there, you click on Find a Pro, you find a good company, or companies that I recommend, or companies that I endorse, companies that I know are going to treat you right. And we do a very thorough job of checking these companies out. Now, I do want to preface that by saying, and it's kind of a drag, but I have an attorney. I have to make sure I don't overpromise and underdeliver. I can only predict what people have. Let me back that up. I can't predict what people are going to do in the future. I can only go by what they've done in the past, right? But you can pretty much get an idea of what a person's going to do in the future based upon what they've done in the past. So that's why we do the background checks, and we check their credit and things of that nature, not their personal credit, but their business credit. And we just make sure that they're not in any litigation, that there's nobody suing them, that they pay their bills, that, and I say pay their bills because what's funny is a lot of times companies will ask for a deposit, and I talk about this a lot. They'll ask you for a deposit, particularly contractors. Hey, I need a deposit. Sometimes it's 20, 30, 40, 50% deposit. And I could tell you, if I was hiring a contractor to do some work on my home, I promise you I would never give them money up front. And of course they'd say, well, I can't get started. And I'd say, okay, see you later. I don't give you money up front. That's just the bottom line. I never give money up front. I would tell them, I understand you need money to get started on my job. And I will tell you what, the day that you arrive with your tools and equipment and you drop them off and you need money to go get materials for my job, I'll give you a check right then and there on the spot, and you can go cash it, and you can do it. That's the only way I would give somebody money down. I will never give money to a company and they schedule me out a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even a few days. The bottom line is that that's where people get in trouble. And so, companies asking for money down, I would never give them that. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about a few things. I'm having a blast doing this. And I just want to start off by saying, if you have a problem or a question or a complaint about any company, I don't care what company they are, call us at 866-966-2287. That's 866-966-2287. You can also text that number and we'll receive your text messages. I'll actually get them right on my screen here, which is pretty cool. And I'll read your text right here on the air. If you call us and you have a problem with a company, we can try to help you get resolution. And I was saying earlier that if you've got a company that you've done business with and they won't return your calls, most of the time I can get them to return my call. And, that says a lot about a company if they don't return your calls. I find it fascinating. They'll always return your calls when they want your business, right? But then once they get it, if they don't return your calls, then what does that say about them, right? So, and I think that's where people get sidetracked when they're choosing a contractor, because let me tell you, they are on their A game when they're trying to get your business. Every company's pretty much on their A game. If they're not on their A game, then, who knows? They're just probably not a company to work with. They're not very professional. They don't know what they're doing. They're not good at, getting new customers. But if they're a good company and that's their goal, they are on their A game all of the time. And the funny thing is a lot of people, I guess, tend to trust a company more. I know this for a fact because I used to do asphalt sales for another company, and of course for my company, and I was on my A game all the time. I mean, I was actually respectful of other people's time. I would let them know when I was going to be there. I know that you're busy, so I said, hey, I can be there this day or this day, and I can be there between these hours. I'm going to give you a window, and then I'll call you when I get there or when I'm on my way. And people appreciated that. But I was a good company, and I was a trustworthy company, and I knew that I was going to do good work for them. So for me, it was all about making sure that I serviced them the best I possibly could. But there's other companies out there that are on their A game that do the exact same thing, but then once they get your business or get your money or get your check, they're a completely different company. It's like a bad date. Can you imagine if you think about it that way? It's like going on a bad date. Everything's great when you're there, and the next day you try to call the person you went on a date with, and they won't respond. Anyway, that was kind of a sidetrack thing. So the bottom line is that everyone's on their A game, and when they're trying to get your job, but then after it changes. And if you've got a problem with a company, I don't care what type of company it is. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they do. If you've got a problem with a company and you cannot get resolution, call us, because I will call them. I'm not afraid of them. They want to intimidate consumers. They want to intimidate people. They don't scare me. They don't scare me at all. I could care less what they have to say there. I've had their attorneys call me. They don't scare me because I know I'm not an attorney, but I know the law to a degree. Okay. So anyway, again, if you have a problem, call into the show, 866-966-2287, and tell us about your problem, all right? We've got someone standing by to take your information, and it doesn't have to be on anything about the topics we're talking about today. It can be anything at all right? But today I'm going to talk about a couple of things, and the first one, I think you'll notice here, I've got a Bon Jovi shirt on, and if you go to Twitter, I actually posted a picture of myself back in my hair days. Man, I am an 80s rocker. I loved the 80s rock and roll. I loved it so much that my first concert, for those of you that are 80s fans, my first concert I went to, I was about 16 at Red Rocks in Denver, Colorado. If you've never been there, you should definitely attend a concert there in the summer. It's absolutely amazing. And my very first concert was Rat, Fastway, and a band called Bronze. I don't know where they're at these days. I've tried to find them, but that was my first concert ever. And man, I didn't know who Fastway was. I had just kind of learned about the band Rat. For those of you that are not 80s fans, I know it's so indicative of an 80s band 80s band name, isn't it? Rat. Anyway, R-A-T-T. Anyway, I went to that concert, and man, it was unbelievable. Like Fastway was just, even that band Bronze, they were phenomenal. Fastway was such a great band. I don't even know if they're still around. I'm sure they are in some fashion. And then Rat. And I remember watching, I was like so close to the stage, and I remember watching Rat. I was mesmerized. I was starry-eyed, and I got the fever. And I went, I'm going to be a rock and roll star. That's what I want to do. And it was crazy because I literally changed completely who I was. I started listening to 80s music, Ozzy Osbourne and Rat, and then getting into the 90s, I listened to, gosh, I could just sit here and name a ton of bands. I'm not going to name them all, but one of my biggest, I guess, how do I put it? My favorite bands ever was Lynch Mob, and that was George Lynch from Dokken. Just loved it, and I love the singer Oni. So anyway, I'd always been kind of a singer when I was younger, and I was always singing. I didn't take any music class. I guess I did take a music class. I wanted to play the drums, and they started me off on the bells. For those of you that are drummers, you're probably going, yeah, well, that's the way you start. But I was like, what? I want to play the drums, man. I don't want to play the bells. And so I kind of quit that, and then I played the trumpet, which I don't know why that was, but anyway, I always was a singer, and when I saw Rat live, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a rock star. That's what I want to do. What a great career choice. I'm sure my parents were like, oh yeah, fantastic, son. We're right behind you. And so I grew my hair out real long, and if you go to Twitter, I just posted that picture earlier. I grew out my hair really long, because it was 90s, man. It was 80s, 90s rock and roll. And I just had a dream. I wanted to make it, man. I just wanted to make it big. And I have to say, I was a pretty good singer, and I still actually can sing pretty well. And matter of fact, if I'm going to post something here, I have a video of my band back in the early 90s. We were called Wasted Youth here in Denver, and I know there was a band in LA that was I can't remember. They were I can't remember the genre they were, but they were called Wasted Youth. So not to be confused with them. They were probably a little bigger than we were. I think they were punk rock and roll or something. Anyway, but we were Wasted Youth here in Denver, and man, I just loved it. I loved playing in a band. I loved singing. And the crazy thing is, I look back at myself, and man, if I just had a little bit of wisdom, if I had the wisdom that I have today back then, God, man, things would have been completely different. But we were a really good band. We had a group of good people. I mean, the only way we can judge that, I'm not telling you that because it was my opinion, but we did have a great following. I mean, we would pack pretty much every place that we went, and we played cover tunes, and then we tried to write our own music, and we were successful in a couple of songs, nothing major. And I'll tell you what, I lived a hard, rough life. That is a rough life. For those of you that are musicians and you're out there working on the road, and man, kudos to you, because I got to tell you, you are a very special person if you can continue to pursue that career. And I pray and I hope every day that you make it big, because that is just an awesome. It's an awesome career if you can make it. And but it's tough to do. It's obviously very, very tough to break out there and do well. And Yeah, and I say this because when we were in our band, like I say, we would travel actually quite a bit, and we would play covers, and then we would do some of our live stuff. Pardon me. And there was, let's see, there was a place we played in Utah, I think, and there was a couple record labels there looking at us, and they came to us. They're like, "Yeah, you guys are pretty good." One of them said, "Yeah, the 80s, 90s music is on its way out. We're not really interested." The other one said, "Hey, we think we could get a couple albums out of you." And long and short of the story, one of the band members, they actually said to us, "But we don't like your music. Your music is actually not very good. So we want to have somebody help write for you." And one of the band members said, "That's a sellout." And I know that was probably a big thing back in the 80s. Don't sell out. And I mean, but man, to me, it was a foot in the door. And I think any type of business person would say, that's a foot in the door. Had we accepted that situation, we probably could have gone a little further. But long and short of it, we would travel everywhere. We would travel in the band on a weekly basis. And I got to tell you, never have I ever starved more than than when I did that. And I know a lot of you musicians out there, I know that you dealt with the same thing, or you deal with the same thing now. And my story is, you're like, "Yeah, tell me something new." And I remember I lived on, I think, I don't know, it was like $140 a week for my own personal income. And, we had to pay for motels, and we had to pay a sound man and part of our road crew. And it was tough. It was super tough, man. I mean, we'd stay in the worst motels, not hotels. We never stayed in a hotel, but we stayed in the worst motels. And it was a blast. We would be gone, 6 days a week. We'd have one day of traveling, and then we'd play. I think it was pretty much almost 7 days a week, because we would travel and we'd play 5 nights a week. And by the time Saturday would roll around, I had laryngitis. I couldn't even sing. And but it was tough. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for you musicians who are out there, and you're doing it, and you're working hard to either make it. Maybe you've been successful in the industry and you're trying to I guess rebrand yourself, or whatever the case may be. And something came to my attention last night that really struck home with me. As you know, as I've said on many different occasions, that I just have a passion for helping people. I have a huge heart. I love to help people. And something last night, I just happened to wake up in the middle of the night. I solve a lot of my problems in the middle of the night, which I don't know why. And I pulled up Facebook, and I saw this post about a gentleman that is a musician. I had no idea who he was at the time. And he posted something about a company called Pledge Music. Now, I want to preface this whole conversation by saying that I did email them and ask them if they'd like to tell their side of this story before this show. I'm not saying they have done anything wrong at all, because I don't know. I've only gone on hearsay. So I've seen a video where a gentleman by the name of Danny Vaughn, I've actually messaged him as well, and I've asked him to possibly come on the show. I want to just check here real quick. And I had not heard anything back from him. And so anyway, I also messaged Pledge Music, and I haven't heard anything back from them, although I do know they opened my email, because I have that ability to see. And so anyway, here's what's happened. My understanding is that Pledge Music works a lot like, say, a GoFundMe campaign, where you can search out, I guess, maybe your favorite artist, or you can find new and upcoming artists. And if you like their music, or you're just a person that you just love helping, you can actually contribute to these bands. They'll have a goal of how much money they want to raise, and that money is to either, I don't know, record an album, or get T-shirts, and get CDs made, and things of that nature. And this funding thing has always been fascinating to me. I'm not going to go too much into that, but it's fascinating to me that we can actually go out there and say, hey, I could really use some help. And there are people that are willing to help. I mean, I think it's awesome. I actually was thinking, how could we start a GoFundMe campaign or something like that where we could help people, particularly people that have been burned, that are really, really, destitute and really in trouble. And maybe you've got some suggestions for me. I don't know much about that stuff, but maybe you've got some suggestions that you could help us set that up. I would love the help. It would be fantastic. So anyway, this Pledge Music, you can, they have a goal of how much money they want to raise. And again, they can use it to record an album or get T-shirts or CDs or, different types of marketing materials, I would call them, T-shirts and posters and things of that nature. And some may ask, well, why would they need that stuff? And because it helps them generate income to put more towards making music or traveling or whatever they need to do for their fans. And of course, I'm sure that going into the recording studio is not cheap. And so, to do it right, you've got to have a pretty good chunk of money. I'm guessing. I mean, the things that I did look at, it's, some of them, like there's a band that I follow called Red. If they were to ever watch this, I'd love to be able to say, hey guys, hey Red. I'm a huge fan of Red, capital R-E-D. Been a fan of them for years, and they were raising money because their record contract ended, and they said, hey, we want to do it on our own. And they were asking for $100,000. So it's not cheap. But anyway, this Pledge Music, my understanding, I happened to catch a video last night about this gentleman, Danny Vaughn, who after I messaged him, not knowing who he was, I just thought he was just a musician. And the guy's been fairly successful. I mean, he was in a band called Taiketo. I looked up that and I was like, wow, hey, I remember those guys. And I can't remember the other one. There was another one. I apologize if you're watching. But anyway, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. So this guy's actually been pretty successful. He knows more of the ins and outs of the industry. And he was talking about how this Pledge Music, now, I know that he, I'm not going to quote exactly what he said because I can't verify it yet, but his understanding is that the money is being grossly mismanaged. And so I guess what's supposed to happen is that there's some milestones that have to be met for the musicians to start getting this money to record their album or do whatever they're going to do. And apparently this milestone that he met it pretty quickly, and he couldn't get his money. And then I think he did say he's gotten some of his money, but then I did a little bit of research, and I saw on Twitter, and if you go to Twitter and you go to Pledge Music, you can see, darn it, I wish I was logged in and it logged me out. I'm not too sure why. Maybe it's because you're logged in there. But anyway, you go to Pledge Music and you can see that there's actually other people that are concerned about what's going on over there. So I decided to email them. I looked for a phone number, and lo and behold, they don't have a phone number. I find that one very, very fascinating. I can't imagine a company not having a phone number. That to me, I mean, I do business with a couple of companies that don't have phone numbers, and I got to tell you, I'm narrowing them down because if I have a problem, I want to talk to a person. I want to talk to somebody. And us as consumers, if we're going to pledge money to musicians through Pledge Music, if that's exactly what it's called, Pledge, I think that we should have the ability to call and talk to a live person and find out what's going on. That's my opinion. And we as consumers have the power and control to do that. Because, hey, if all of a sudden every person that wants to contribute to Pledge or contribute to a particular artist through Pledge does not contribute any money, that could pose a problem for them. Now, I don't want to put them out of business. I'm not sitting here saying we should put them out of business, but they need to respond. And they need to respond publicly because the reality is they're handling money. And in my opinion, that is extremely sensitive. So anyway, I looked and I found an email address that I could email them. So I emailed them and I let them know that I was going to be doing this show today, talking about Pledge Music. And I have email tracking software, and they opened it twice, in the UK and read the email. But I didn't hear anything back. Now, that doesn't mean that they're bad guys, that they're doing anything wrong. It still doesn't mean that. I also read a tweet from someone, and I actually replied to them. I was hoping they would call in. Another musician that said that his management company called them, and they said, oh, everybody's going to get their money. Well, here at trustpatrick.com, I don't take a third person's word for it. I want to talk to somebody there, and I'd like to find out what the story is. And I gave them the opportunity. I said, hey, we're going to be doing a show this morning about Pledge and what's going on, and we'd like to have you guys on to give your side of the story so that people can hear right from the horse's mouth. That way, you don't have one person saying, my manager spoke to them, and he says or she says that they're going to pay out money, and you got another guy saying, well, why haven't they paid it out then? How do we know this manager, and I'm not going to name any names, how do we know this manager isn't in the back pocket of Pledge Music? I don't know. We don't know that. There's no way to confirm. So let's be honest with each other. Don't you think the best way to find out is to have them call into the show and tell us their side of the story? I mean, that's, to me, makes the most sense. So we'll give them a little bit of time to call into the show. And if they don't, I'll email them again. Maybe you guys can also go on to Twitter and say, hey, call Trust Patrick, call the Consumers Corner Show. We want to hear out of the horse's mouth what you have to say about this. Call them. Give your side of the story. That's what we want to hear. Tweet to them. Message them. Email them. Go to their Facebook page. Go to their Instagram page. Go everywhere you can and tell them, we want to hear right from your mouth what is going on. Because the reality is that if money is being mismanaged, then obviously in my opinion, I personally would never give them a single dime of my money, because I know it's not going to make it to that musician. So, and then the other gentleman that did the video that I saw this morning, Danny Vaughn, I know he's got a GoFundMe page set up. I would love to talk to Danny. I'd love to interview him, learn a little bit more about how he got connected with Pledge Music and what's been going on there. And, I'd love to have him on so that we can talk to him about, his career and promote his GoFundMe page and thank him for putting that out, because it's getting some traction. And I think that as consumers, we can all, as a team, get them to come to the table, and that's really the whole goal here. So we're going to continue with the show here, and if you have any questions or you have a comment, you can text us at 866-966-2287. You can call us at 866-966-2287. You can actually also tweet us. Actually, we are at Twitter right now. Yeah, I don't know how to run this stuff. This is crazy. Okay, so anyway, send us a tweet, send us a text, give us a call, whatever the case may be. We'd love to hear your side, your part of the story of how you're involved in it. And again, let's get the word out there. Let's find out what's going on. So while we're here, I'd like to talk about a couple of other things. In a follow-up to our show number 2, we had a gal on that had an overlay done on her concrete driveway. And unfortunately for her, it's really not turned out to be a very good situation. And I called the owner of the concrete company that did the work for her. It'll be a week ago tomorrow. I didn't hear back from him until Monday, and he did call me, and he left me a message to call him back, and I did that day, Monday, and did not hear back from him. I actually called him twice. The second time I called him, I said, hey, we're going to do a show tomorrow, and the person that's complaining about you is going to tell her side of the story. We'd love to have you on. Now, I can tell you this was his personal cell phone number. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have my cell phone on me all the time. I mean, if I don't return your call, it's because I don't want to talk to you. That's the way I use my cell phone. I'm not saying that's what he did, but I I don't know. Just doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, we did the show on Tuesday. She told her story, and we actually had one of our experts on that kind of I shouldn't say. So what he did was he assessed it and kind of gave his opinion. And you can go check out that show if you want. But I didn't hear back from him again on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, I didn't hear from him. So I called him one last time. I gave him one last chance to call us. Because listen, I'm the type of person, and I believe this is what America was founded on, was innocent until proven guilty. And I would never want to jump to conclusions, just like I did a few minutes ago with Pledge, and say, oh, they're guilty, just because I heard somebody say something. I'm never going to do that. I would rather give the benefit of doubt, let somebody tell me their side of the story. And if they tell me their side of the story, look, I'm going to be honest with you. If I disagree with you, you're going to know it. I'm going to tell you. And for some reason, God has implanted in me some intuition, some third thing in my gut that I can read things and I can sense things, and I'm good at that. I don't know why. I've been doing it with driveways for 10 years. I've had people that have called me and complained about them, and the contractor has called me, and I've been able to go, yeah, there's something not right with your story there. So anyway, finally, last night, I got an email from the owner of the company saying, I watched your show. Of course, I have my side of the story, and I'd like to tell it. So I don't know where he's at right now. We're going to try to get Sarah on the phone, maybe not today, but on another show whenever we can. And we're going to have him tell his side of the story. And we're going to kind of figure out really what went wrong, why it went wrong, and then we're going to try to see how we can resolve the problem. And that's the goal here, is to try to help resolve it. We don't want to hurt anybody. We just want to resolve problems and help people with their problems. So, and then in the meantime, I had another person email me. I think, this one has been a few days ago. And, this pertains to asphalt driveways. And I wanted to just read his email and then show you a couple pictures here in a minute. But he said, hey, I've enjoyed your videos, and I hope you can help me with a reputable local contractor and also answer a couple of questions. I live in Tucson, Arizona, and the daily temperature swings and blazing hot summer days wreak havoc on asphalt driveways here. Mine is no exception, is what he says. I had it resealed about 5 years ago, and the results were subpar in my opinion. After only a year, the surface began cracking and breaking off. The contractor came by to look at it again and said that my driveway was uncoatable. Oh, I didn't realize that. So the contractor that sealed it came by and said, oh, it's uncoatable. He did. So this, to my opinion, is, now look, the guy maybe doesn't have any justification for why he doesn't think his driveway looks good 5 years later. He waited 5 years. If he had called the guy within a year and saying the surface is cracking, but this is like 5 years later. So the guy says it's uncoatable due to age, which I find funny because about the only time that a driveway is uncoatable, which I don't know where he got that terminology, but it's not sealable or you can't seal it. It's never not sealable. I mean, you could seal it, but it would be stupid to. And in those occasions, it would be one when it's so cracked and broken up and potholes and all that good stuff that it's. I worked with a guy that he actually said it perfectly. He said, seal coating a broken up piece of junk driveway is like painting a wrecked car. I'm like, that is so funny. That is so true. It's like painting a wrecked car. So if it's broken up and cracked everywhere, of course it's not sealable, or it is sealable, but it's of course you wouldn't want to. That'd be stupid. The other, I guess, way that you wouldn't want to seal it, or to say that it's unsealable, if it's so destroyed and so not even an asphalt driveway anymore that it's almost down to the dirt, that's unsealable. But if it's still an asphalt driveway, and I'm going to show you the pictures here in a second, it's completely sealable. So in my opinion, it's uncoatable. He's trying not to take any responsibility. Some people in business just cannot handle complaints. They just don't handle them well. And the reality is if you just sit down and educate your customers a little bit, you're not going to have so much problems. And if your customers don't believe you, I don't know what you're doing. I never had that problem, and I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have videos. I didn't have what we have today. So then what's the best thing you can do? The next best step is you become, if you're a company, list your company on trustpatrick.com, because I don't let anybody on who goes out there giving misinformation. I only let people on that are honest, ethical, do good work, say what they're going to do, and do what they said they're going to do. Those are the people that we work with. We don't work with any other companies. We don't work with companies that can't agree to that. So anyway, going on, this says it's uncoatable due to age. This driveway is not very old, which he said found to be surprising. So he says, sure, it has cracks, but I would expect a sealer to create a bond to any asphalt, regardless of age. That's the truth. Anyway, at this point, the previous seal is now loose all over the place, creating a gritty surface in places. It needs repair. So here are my questions. He says, number one, does it make sense, given the poor condition of the existing seal, to have a contractor first use a rotating wire brush vacuum machine to remove the old coating prior to sealing? To my knowledge, that doesn't exist. So if you have a driveway that's been oversealed, and I'll get to why his driveway probably looks the way it does here in a second. But if you've got a driveway that has that appearance, that's flaking off, it could be a couple of reasons. Number one, it could be that it was a little too thick. It's because they've oversealed it. It could be that they didn't mix the sealer right. It could be a few things that, but it has nothing to do with the temperature. I can tell you that right now. Doesn't matter how hot it is. Okay. So you can't, you could probably find someone that would do that would wire brush the driveway and get that old sealer off. But quite frankly, it's kind of a waste. There's really no reason to do that. The sealer that's stuck on there is fine. Yeah, they're going to clean it and they're going to wire brush it and get the loose stuff off. But that's it. Then they'll seal it again. And then he asks, when filling the cracks, should I request a cold asphalt fill or the pliable goop that they used the last time that failed after a few months? So whatever the pliable goop that they used the last time was, I have no idea. My guess is it probably was a cold pour sealer. Typically in a driveway, you just use a hot pour rubberized sealer that you would use on the same thing that they use on the roads. Okay. So that, and then can you recommend a few contractors in Tucson? And of course we handled that. So anyway, I want to try to show you these pictures here. Move my coffee. Where is it at here? Desktop. Let's see, where are we at? All right, sorry. I don't want to leave a bunch of dry air. Here it is. So let's see, asphalt ceiling. Can you pull these up? Okay, there we go. It's a little bit small. You may not be able to see it, but you can see if I can. Yeah, I can make that bigger. You can see here that the asphalt in the little circle, I guess it looks like right there, it's kind of flaking off. That was probably, honestly, a drop of sealer that they didn't do anything to, or it was even cold pour rubber that they were putting in the crack next to it that dried out and is flaking off now. So that's kind of normal. It's probably not the best material. They didn't use the best material. So that doesn't look so bad. That looks like a normal asphalt driveway to me. So let me forward here. Oops. Get down to the next one. So now you can see this one here is this to me on that edge there. That is probably sealer that was too thick when they first put it on. And it may have actually been sealer underneath it that was too thick, and then you added to it, and that wasn't very good either. So this is a standard, probably 5-year-old sealed driveway. Okay, not a big deal, makes sense. And then of course here is the driveway from a different angle, and you can see those cracks are definitely wide open. But you look at this driveway, this is not uncoatable. This is not too old to be uncoatable. So it sounded to me like he either scared the contractor because, he was complaining and the guy was worried about it and didn't want to do it. But giving him misinformation is, why would you do that? Just tell him, yeah, I can seal it, but hey, now this is what I would do. I would say to the consumer, I'd say, hey, look, I would say, I would say, hey, look, I'm going to seal it again, but this is probably going to happen again. It's not that I'm doing a bad job. It's that when you get too much sealer on the driveway, that's what it can happen. So anyway, so that's that driveway. Oh. All right, and the next picture is him facing the road, and you can see that the old cracks are there and the sealer's worn off. So this driveway is 100% coatable. I think the guy just, I don't know what his deal was, but anyway, so that's how that stuff works. So done with the pictures, and so that's a driveway that we got an email on about seal coating the driveway, and that was the questions we had, and I wanted to share that. If you've got a comment about that, if you're an asphalt contractor and you've got a comment, hey, chime in, email us, text us, 866-966-2287. You can also email us at consumerscorner@trustpatrick.com, and we'll read your quote here right on the air. So anyway, and then I'm going to talk about another call that I had the other day. I actually had a consumer call me, and they emailed me, and they were complaining about their driveway. They had a new asphalt driveway installed in, I can't remember, it was South Carolina or North Carolina, something like that. And, a lot of times people will actually send stuff into me, and I would say it's probably about a 40-60 ratio, 40% that the consumer is a little overly concerned and they think that they got ripped off. And then another 2 or 3% of those people are convinced, no matter what I say, even though I've been in the industry for over 20 years, that they were burned and it wasn't right. But anyway, so about 40% of those people. And then the other 60% are typically it's the contractor's fault. It really is. So my point is 40% of them, there really wasn't anything wrong. And then 60% of them the contractor really did do something that really wasn't it wasn't right. Maybe they didn't mean to do it. Maybe it's, I guess it could range from they blatantly did something wrong to, hey, it just happened and it was kind of the nature of the business. And the severity would probably vary right along with those from extremely severe to slightly a problem, not a big deal. So anyways, this gentleman, emailed me and said that he had a driveway installed and that I don't think that it's even a year old and it's already cracking. Well, one of the things that I want to tell you is that by nature, asphalt cracks. It's going to crack. It's not if it's going to crack. It's where and when it's going to crack, okay? They're going to crack. It's just the nature. You got a big piece of a hard surface. The soil is constantly moving and changing with temperatures and moisture and things of that nature, and it's got to move, so it will crack. The reason why they put you go to a driveway with concrete and you see all those lines in the concrete, those are what's called controlled joints, and they put those in concrete to hope that they crack when they do move, and they do crack. It's not if, it's when and where, that they crack in those controlled joints. That's why they put them in concrete driveways. They don't put them in asphalt driveways because it's just a different animal. I mean, it's one big piece of asphalt, and it just depends on where you live and what the soil's like. I mean, I've been on driveways that were 2 or 3, 4 years old that didn't have a single crack in them, or maybe just a little tiny crack here and there. And then I've been to some of them that had a couple of big cracks across them that were installed properly. Now, if you're talking about a driveway that some dirtbag was out there scamming people, which, as you can tell, I have a lot of disdain for these people because they burn and scam people every year, and my website goes crazy. I get complaint after complaint after complaint, and it's unfortunately people find me after it's too late. And you get these dirtbags that go out and they tell people, like I was telling you earlier, they're on their A game when they're trying to sell you the job. And then these guys will go out and do the craziest stuff. I mean, it's amazing to me that people actually fall for this. As a consumer, man, come on. You gotta think about stuff, man. Like, one of their biggest pitches is they're working down the street and they got extra asphalt and they're going to use it on your driveway and they're going to give you a really good deal because we don't want to throw away that extra asphalt. They're lying to you, okay? Bottom line, period, they're dirtbags. They're lying to you. There's no such thing as extra asphalt. And if there is, it's usually such a little amount of extra asphalt I always threw it away. You eat the cost. And that stuff's $45 a ton. So if you're a good contractor and you know what you're doing, you manage your job and you get your amount of tons that you're going to use. It's never going to be exact. We all know that. But you always order a little bit extra so that you make sure that you can finish that person's driveway the right way. And if for some reason you miscalculate and you end up coming up short, you have to get extra asphalt and you get an extra few tons. But the reality is by the time that you clean up that job and you get your crew, you're probably at the end of the day anyway. If somebody knocks on your door at 10 in the morning and says, I've got extra asphalt, trust me, they're lying to you. It's such a joke. There's just no such thing. We would throw that asphalt away. It's the cost of doing business, and any business person, real business person, knows that. So, anyway, they're on their A game, and that's what I was talking about was the cracking. And they will actually go and pave people's driveways an inch thick, or less. Sometimes a half an inch thick. I've seen some that I've walked on, and it was a half an inch thick, and they last a few days. They look awesome the day they do it. Which I got to tell you, there's something about reviews, and I'm not going to say whose reviews, but any reviews that you see online, I think reviews have their place and they're good, but they are not fail-safe, and here's why. Let's say I hire a contractor who comes onto my property and maybe he sells me on his extra asphalt pitch, and I pave their driveway. It looks stellar the very first day, man. I mean, it looks awesome, and you're like, wow, I got a new driveway and I got a deal, right? But then a few days to a few months down the road, it starts cracking up. And you come to find out that it's a half an inch thick. Well, think back to the day that you got your new driveway. And you're sitting there going, man, this looks so awesome. And you're online and you happen to be on Facebook and you tell your friends, check out this awesome driveway I just got installed. And you're bragging about your driveway and, oh, let's give these guys a good review. And you give them a good review and 5 stars, awesome job. Do you think you're really going to remember that you put that review on some random website 3 months down the road when you realize they burned you? Do you think you're going to really remember that? And here's the problem with that. Now, that guy just got a 5-star review, awesome job. He goes to the next guy and says, yeah, I just got a 5-star review and an awesome job on my last driveway. I do good work. Now, all of a sudden, our guard's down. We're like, yeah, you must do good work because you got 5 stars and you got a great review. And then you get a second one and a third one and a fourth one. And it's 3 months down the road, you got 15 good positive reviews. But all of those driveways are going to start breaking up, and they're breaking up. Now, you tell me, am I wrong? Are reviews that reliable? Are they really that reliable? Can you rely on it? Now, there are some businesses, sure, they're reliable. I don't know what those would be off the top of my head, but they are reliable. So that's my contention with reviews. And, I just don't know what I feel about them. So anyway, talking about cracking up and the cracks on a driveway. If it's cracked up like that, you wouldn't want to seal it either. And here's another thing. There are some people that want a recycled asphalt driveway. There's another scam that's going on out there. These dirt bags they'll go get recycled asphalt. And what recycled asphalt is you'll see sometimes they'll resurface the roads and they'll mill off the first inch or two off the top of the road. And that has rubber in it, and it has striping, the paint from the striping in it, and it has all that stuff. And then you've got, and they take that to the plant and they dump it in a pile. And then you've got asphalt that has been removed. Maybe you've got a parking lot that they're removing it and it's all old and broken up, and they remove that asphalt, or a driveway, and they take it to the plant. They actually will crush up that asphalt, and they'll sell some of it as recycled asphalt that you can throw on your driveway. And then some of it they actually use to put into their new mix. It's not a virgin material, and it has a little bit of recycle in it, which is not a problem at all. If anybody tells you otherwise, they're full of it. It's going to last just as long and be just as good as a company that puts virgin asphalt down. I used to be a competitor to a company here in Denver that used to tell people, well, I use virgin asphalt. And I'm like, dude, come on. Who cares? Virgin asphalt doesn't make a difference. Recycled, you got 15% recycled and new asphalt. It blends right in. You don't even see a difference. You don't notice a difference. Yeah, okay, maybe you see a tiny bit of difference because it's got a little more oil in it, but it's all a big sales pitch. So anyway, what was I getting at? I hate when I do that. This is the effects of doing a live show that you've never done before. We're doing it live, and everything we've always done has been pre-recorded on TV and of course in some of the videos. But the recycled asphalt is what I was getting at. These scams that are out there with recycled asphalt. So these guys will go to an asphalt plant and they'll buy recycled asphalt, and then they'll go around and they'll talk to homeowners and say, oh, we're just down the road. We're actually working on milling and repaving that job on the highway. Did you see that? And, hey, we've got some recycled asphalt here. We'll give you a good deal. We'll put it down on your driveway, and it'll look just like a brand new asphalt driveway. And it's funny because people actually buy that. It doesn't look like it's a dirt driveway. That's all it is. It's just a dirt driveway. It will never it can get hard again, and it does get hard from the sun, but it doesn't get hard consistently. Some places are hard. Some places are broken up. Some places, it's very inconsistent. So yes, it can get hard over time, but it's very, very inconsistent. And the inconsistency causes even more problems down the road, and that is that now you get potholes. And those potholes, you can't fix them, period. You cannot fix them unless you try to put hot asphalt in them. And then now you've got hot asphalt around recycled asphalt, and it looks beat up and just looks like crap. And so, but these guys will go and tell people, oh, yeah, we're going to put it in, we're going to use the paver, they make it look all legitimate, and then we're going to spray it, we're going to seal it, and it's going to be perfectly hard the next day. I've had this happen. And the next day people go out there and they drive on it, and it scuffs up. And the next thing you know, they're calling me going, hey, what happened? And I'm like, you bought some guy's bullcrap story. That's what happened. They're dirtbags. They're out there in force every summer. We'll never stop them 100% unless us as consumers go, hey, I'm not going to do that. I'm never going to do business with somebody that knocks on my door and tells me they have extra asphalt. I'm never going to do business with somebody that knocks on my door and says they're working down the street and they're milling the road and they're going to give me a great deal. There are legitimate companies out there that knock on doors. I'm not going to tell you that it's an everything all the time, that everyone that knocks on your door is a dirtbag. That's not the case. There are some good guys that's what they do. And I've had them email me and say, that's bull crap that you say that. And I'm like, okay, I'll rephrase it. And even in the other videos, I never said all people that knock on doors are dirtbags. I've never said that. But I can tell you that there are some good guys that do good work that knock on doors, okay? I just know I wouldn't do it. That's just me, okay? You do whatever you want. If you feel like you're going to get a great deal, do it. But those great deals, there's always, to me, every time I've ever even seen them, those great deals always are not such a great deal. So anyway, that's with the recycled asphalt driveways. So this guy emailed me and told me that he got a driveway installed and it's cracking up and wanted to get my opinion. So I talked to him on the phone and I looked at the pictures, and guess what? It's not a bad job. Hey, I've seen way, way, way worse jobs. Whoops. If I could get to it here. There it is. I've seen way worse jobs. I'm going to show you some pictures here of this driveway, and if you're an asphalt contractor, hey, give us a call, chime in, text message us, email us. We don't get the messages on the video in real time because we don't have it up. But call in, give us some feedback, tell us what you think. So now this first picture here he took, I'm going to go through these really quickly because I don't want to take too much more of your time. You can see these are cracks. This looks to me like it was probably stretched. They rolled it a little bit, maybe just a little bit too much, but I can't be positive because I wasn't there. So it's just a little bit of cracking there. Now this one here is on an edge, and you can see that it looks like it's a nice thick driveway. We don't know for sure if it is, but it's cracked right there. My opinion is it's probably because there's no shoulder there. And I told the guy, hey, you should probably build that up with some, crush and run or some crushed granite or something to have a shoulder, so that if you drive off that edge, you don't drive down and then crack that asphalt more. You just drive and it transitions nicely onto a nice shoulder, and that'll help a lot. And you can see it here, it cracked along that edge. Same thing. Now, again, I don't know if it's the right thickness. You can never tell This guy says that he doesn't have a written contract with this company, but they told him they put 3 inches down. So we have to take his word for it, right? If this thing starts breaking up a lot more in the next year, well, then we're going to talk about doing some other things and find out if it's really as thick as he said it is. And at that point, it's still tough because he doesn't have it in writing. So anyway, that is the cracks on the edge there. If he puts some shoulder on it, it'll be really good. See, that's indicative of stretching. They just rolled it just a little bit too much, and it stretched. So, and then that crack right there, you can see. Another crack right there on that edge. So, you can see he took a bunch of pictures of all these cracks. Now, there's a couple things that could be causing this. One, because right next to it is open field and the water could be getting under there. I've noticed that this is kind of a trend with parking lots and driveways. If there's a big open field next to it, it typically will do that. And then they look very similar to those cracks. The second thing it could be, and I'm just going to get through to the other pictures I had him send me. You can see some of these pictures, the little cracks there, is I had him send these pictures here, and I've said, oh, okay, so there's some trees out there. Now, this was paved pretty recently, so I can't imagine roots causing those cracks so quickly, but you never know. And there's no way to know 100% without digging it up. I don't even know if an engineer could look at that and give you an exact idea unless they were to pull core samples and dig it up. But you can see that he said that from about, you can see a foam, I guess you can't really see that, a foam pole in the back, but from this foam pole back to the street is where it's cracking. And I noticed that it's an open field, there's trees, and there's no shoulder. So that I told him, you really need to put a shoulder on that, and that's going up towards the home. You can see that telephone pole right there on the right-hand side. You can hardly tell. It almost looks like a huge aspen tree. But from that telephone pole back to the road, he said it was cracking up. So, and overall, it's not a bad job. I mean, yeah, you can see some lines from the screed on the paver, but it's not a bad job. It doesn't look bad to me. I told him I wouldn't be concerned about it, which made him feel real good. But the thing that makes him nervous is that he called the contractor. I'm going to close these pictures out. He called the contractor, and the contractor won't return his calls. So we don't know what exactly happened there. We don't know if he's afraid that he did something wrong. We don't know if maybe he knows he did something wrong and he doesn't want to come out and fess up to it. We don't know what's going on, but we're going to give it a little bit of time. I've put a call into the contractor to ask him some questions, and I've not received a phone call back yet. But overall, that's not a bad job. I wouldn't be too concerned about it, and I wanted to mention it on the show here for those of you that happened to tune in and you wanted to get some information on some asphalt driveways. So we've been on for about an hour now. We've not heard anything from Pledge at all. And unfortunately, it doesn't sound like we're going to hear from him today. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this show up for today. And we're going to come back on tomorrow. We're on here every day about 10 a.m. Sometimes we'll go a little longer than an hour. Sometimes we'll go less than an hour. I don't know. Sometimes we'll go it depends on the topic and how many callers we have. We'll go 3 hours. But we'll be back, and we're gonna give you an update on Pledge Music, and we're also going to give you an update on the concrete driveway in where is it? Tacoma, Washington. We'll give you an update on that. Hopefully we'll have the owner on soon to tell his side of the story. And we thank you for watching. I hope I've helped you. I hope that if you're a consumer out there and you're getting ready to buy something or do something, that you think of trustpatrick.com. And again, if you have any problems, please make sure you contact us so that we can help you get your problem resolved. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on our next show. Have a great day.